In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, today's daily random talk is on game theory to analyze the current Middle East conflict situation. And on Saturday, I will analyze. I will use game theory to predict the Nash equilibrium or the outcome, predicted outcome using game theory for the Middle East situation currently unfolding. A brief about game theory. Game theory usually used in managerial economics and strategic management, applied usually in business. Oh, and a Nobel Prize was awarded in economics to John Nash for using game theory and deriving the what is known as the Nash equilibrium. It uses the theory of games played by players, and it assigns people as players, different kinds of players in any ecosystem, whether it's a business ecosystem or a geopolitical ecosystem. So, in our current situation, we are going to apply it in a geopolitical ecosystem of the Middle East conflict to analyze it, to open up our horizons on what the players are and what the players are trying to get, a predicted outcome from it. There are various kinds of games, including what is known as prisoner's dilemma, which is whereby a prisoner, with a number of prisoners who have committed a crime, and the government does not have evidence except unless one of them confesses. Say there are 3 or 4 people who have been arrested for a particular criminal activity, and each of them is kept in a separate room and they are being interrogated. Now each of them faces a dilemma whether should they accept plea bargaining and be state witnesses and be forgiven for their role in the crime and implicate the others in it, and the others are punished. He becomes the state witness. So each of them has to make the decision for themselves whether everyone is going to implicate somebody else or not. So that's the dilemma a prisoner or a criminal faces who has been caught and may lead to his imprisonment or imprisonment of his colleagues while he gets out free, or whether someone else is going to get him in and he's going to come out. So there's a prisoner's dilemma. Then there are what are known as zero-sum outcome games, whereby there is no winner. It's a zero-sum game, similar to the winner-take-all situation. Either you take everything or you get nothing. A zero-sum game can also have There can be a positive sum game whereby the outcome, each and every player is better off after playing the game, and then due to the decisions taken, and uh, and then there is a negative sum game whereby there is no winner, all the players lose out from their current positions. They have less than what they started with. Then there are those Kylo games, which are simulated games played out repeatedly. If scenario 1 is this, scenario 2 is this, you do this, you do that, this one will do that, this one will, if I do this one will do that. And you play it out over several times using dice or computer simulation, and you come to an outcome. This has been developed by Professor Paddy McNutt, also his name is Professor Patrick McNutt, lovingly called Paddy. He took us for the managerial economics class. While I was doing my MBA at the University of Manchester, a super elite institution. So let us analyze the situation in the Middle East by roles each of the players are having. At the moment, the United States is the extant dominant player in the region, which has several military bases in various other smaller states. They are supporting players in the side, which like Saudi Arabia, there is a military base. Kuwait is a military base since the invasion by Iraq. United Arab Emirates is a military base for the US. Bahrain hosts the naval base, the Fifth Fleet, the military base. Qatar hosts an Air Force base, the Al Udeid base. The key thing is United States provides security guarantees to these smaller Gulf states, the smaller players, the non-dominant submissive players, you can call them. And this is the carrot and the stick. The carrot being, what they have to do is they have to sell their oil in the United States dollar. If these countries, including Oman, who were all members of OPEC initially from 1961 till about 2020 or so, when Qatar left. Now this year, 2026, the United Arab Emirates also left the OPEC. In 2024, the petrodollar agreement, exclusive requirement for these states to sell their oil and gas output in US dollars, expired. So these are the people who are submissive players to the United States, where they get their security to the United States and they support the US dollar through sale of oil in US dollars and investing the surplus funds mainly in the United States. Hence, the United States economy can borrow more than, significantly more than its real ability to borrow, because the petrodollars also, to sell of petroleum, passes through their Federal Reserve System. And all these countries had their currencies pegged to the US dollar, like the UAE dirham was pegged, or is still pegged, I understand. The peg is still there at the rate of $1 for 3.665 UAE dirham. It doesn't change with all its attendant implications of a pegged currency. Initially, from the 1940s till 1979, overthrow of the Shah of Iran, the ruling monarch there, and it became a democratic, theocratic state. Iran also sold its oil through the US dollars, through US companies. It was also a submissive state. However, since the overthrow of the Shah, they have pursued this. Basically, there was a conflict. The US did not want the clerics. They wanted them to be out of power, so they imposed sanctions and whatnot, and they froze their assets, etc., and removed them from the system. However, they still survived, and so the war seems more like US attacking Iran. It is factually correct, but in game theory, that is not the whole truth. It is a partial truth, because what happened is Iran found other buyers of its oil, and it sold its oil in yuan to China, which is the world's biggest consumer of oil and gas. So it became a defiant player. The de novo player in this game is China. China, through its Belts and Bridges initiative, has not only built infrastructure for Iran, it has agreement signed in 2021 to invest 400 billion US dollar equivalent infrastructure building program in Iran. It also buys Iranian oil, and when the Shanghai Stock Exchange started selling energy futures, Iranian oil was one of the first people to be participants in the yuan-dominated Shanghai energy futures market, which included Russia since its isolation through the Ukraine war, and also one or two other Gulf countries also have joined that energy Shanghai energy futures market, which is basically eating on the United States dominance of the futures market for oil and gas commodity trading globally. It is an alternative to the US dollar denominated system. So the de novo player is China. China is also the world's biggest, the country with the world's biggest industrial output. The industrial output is 30% of the world's industrial output. It is sold not only, it is also the biggest trading partner for Saudi Arabia, for the UAE, for Qatar, of course for Iran. It has given them a lifeline. In spite of all the sanctions and all the naval blockades enforced by the United States, Iran has survived because of the Chinese support. And through the Belts and Roads Initiative, it had also done great infrastructure projects in the UAE and Qatar. So it is the player. So what does the United States want? The needs of the United States in this Gulf conflict. The United States wants the status quo to remain and everyone to be towing its line and selling the oil and gas in the region in US dollars. That is why United States and Israel attacked Iran, so that they can overthrow the current regime of clerics, which has existed for over 47 years. And it also again joins and installs the puppet regime, preferably restoring the grandson of the previous Shah of Iran. However, that it was supposed to be fast and furious, epic fury. However, it didn't take place because people the United States and Israel had possibly underestimated the reach of the Iranian clerical regime, and they allowed the people head for it. Yes, there have been challenges, but it has been significantly minor. Headscarf issues and whatnot. But all of them have also been done by stooges of the United States, according to Iran. See, the United States wants political change as a condition of their support with the commercial or military, which from Iran is not forthcoming and is unlikely to be forthcoming. Because if you look at Iran, the player who has been attacked, the defiant player, it has survived US sanctions, it has survived a 9-year war with Iraq, the Iran-Iraq war. whereby Saddam Hussein of Iraq was funded by his Gulf Arab neighbors like Saudi Arabia, etc., Saudi Arabia, UAE, etc., and armed by the United States, including they built for him a chemical weapons factory, which he used on Iran, also to Iranian soldiers, and later on even used on the Kurdish population of Iraq and also on the Shia Arab Muslim population in Iraq against his own people also. The guy was a total despot and tyrant. There is no doubt about it. But the United States supported him, armed him, gave him chemical weapons, and possibly even technology for other weapons of biological weapons and the other weapons of mass destruction. In terms of technology, until he turned rogue by attacking Kuwait. So the United States wants to have it to be the country which gives the security to the region, including for Israel. Israel and the United States have a special, very, very, very special relationship, being that the Jewish lobby in the United States is the most powerful, and funds the US presidential elections significantly and determines its outcome, and also more than 95% of US senators across the party divide, both Democrats and Republicans, and House of Representative members, more than 90% have been funded by the Israeli Jewish lobby in the United States, including families like the Rothschilds and the Sassoons. Which control huge capital. Israel wants its recognition and to be the kingmaker or the dominant player in Middle East geopolitics. So it participated. It actually forced the United States to attack Iran together with itself. However, it was not a swift victory as expected. People did not come out to support the United States and Israel. They thought the regime would fall immediately, the bombs would start falling on Iran, and Iran infrastructure would be damaged. Yes, the infrastructure got partially damaged, of course, but the people remained behind Iran, actually in a much stronger way than before also. You should understand, while Iran being a cleric Islamic republic, the defiant player, it is a very progressive state in that it has due to the sanctions regime and the embargoes and whatnot it faced since 1979, it went to develop its own homegrown military equipment manufacturing, because when it realized the equipment which they had from the United States in the Shah's time, they wanted replacement parts or they wanted ammunition, they couldn't get it from the United States, so they had to develop. Necessity is the mother of invention, and it had been blessed with minerals and metals to be able to develop its own military industrial base and also a consumer industrial base. Many people do not talk about it, but it has its own car building plants. Through reverse engineering, you would say. Yes, everybody did it, including China and Japan. From the four Mercedes-Benz, of course, Carl Benz's invention. Oh, people thought they were really barbarians, but they were really not barbarians. Iran is one of the few countries which recognizes its religious minorities. There are three religious minorities recognized for the Islamic Republic of Iran's constitution, and they have reserved seats in the Iranian Majlis, the Iranian parliament. This includes the Christians, the Armenian Christians, and the Parsis, the Zoroastrians basically. The Parsis are Zoroastrians, and also the Jewish community. The Christians are mainly the Armenian Christians. They are vibrant communities, and they have one of the most beautiful churches in the world, in the Christian world, is in Iran. Actually, it is in Isfahan, built over 400 years ago. People do not talk about it. It's an Armenian Eastern Orthodox church, and the city of Isfahan has not one church, it is 13 or 14 churches. There are churches in Tehran, the capital. You would not expect it to be there. It has a strong Armenian Christian population, more than 75,000 people. And in Tabriz also there is a huge Armenian Christian population. Even in Tehran there are more than 10 churches in different areas and suburbs. And these Armenian Christians, and Isfahan also has a great tradition of having Jewish community, and these are some of those who never, even though they had the opportunity to go to Israel when it was formed, because they said it's a homeland for the Jews and they wanted Jews from all over the world to go. Some of the Iranians went, of course, but these are the ones who remained. And they have some of the lovely synagogues, most vibrant synagogues in the Middle East are in Iran. So, and these Christians and Jewish and Zoroastrian communities also do support the Iranian regime, because their rights are protected and they have reserved seats in parliament and they have a voice in parliament and they have made their voice heard within the Iranian establishment. So it is not really what the West portrays, because West barely portrays the positive sides of Western media, rarely portrays the positive sides of its adversaries. Which should be known. Iran also has a vibrant economy. It has a stock exchange. You would expect the Islamic Republic not to have a stock exchange, but they do have. When businesses operate and thrive in there, people do listings. It also has a derivative exchange, whereby Islamic Sharia compliant derivative instruments, financial instruments, are traded, including futures, forwards for currencies and the like, and also commodities. So Iran does have it has an industrial base prior to the current conflict. Even in Kenya, people used to come. Iranians used to come usually during Ramadan and whatnot to sell the Iranian products. There would be exhibitions, expos in Kenya. So people do know Iranian has a positive consumer industrial base also. It is the defined player, and what it wants is recognition. It wants the sanctions to be lifted on it, so that it can procure some of the things which it cannot procure in the sanctions regime. It wants the blockade of its ports lifted. It wants to assert its sovereignty, both territorial and military-wise, to have its own nuclear power as a deterrent by aggressive neighbors like Israel. It has wants to continue its ballistic missile and drone making capacity. It does have, which actually Iranian drones were even Iranian missiles were used by Russians in the war in Ukraine, because it has a specialty of long-range missiles. It has a potential to be a global arms dealer once the embargoes are lifted. And it can sell its arms through internationally in the global market. The Gulf Arab states want a peaceful, stable environment, a clear route to supply routes of its oil outside, so that they can get the money. Most of them, even if they don't have for the what you call oil is still important to the economies, even Saudi Arabia and UAE. And peace is also required to get, as they diversify. Tourism falls drastically. Nobody will want to go to a country which is with its potential of missiles falling anytime, like in UAE or even in Saudi Arabia. Therefore, it requires that peace. Also, they are going into tech, and that requires, and their tech is fueled by foreign talent relocating, and foreign talent, immediately signs of war comes, they will disappear to other locations like Singapore, the US, Silicon Valley, India. The AI dreams and objectives for UAE and Saudi Arabia would also fall down, and also the real estate boom, whereby they're selling real estate for global investors to come in, and tourism to take place, theme parks and all that. Everything collapses if they are in a region which is unstable. So they want peace and stability, and secure source, and more importantly, they want their Gulf monarchies to remain in place. The current rulers do not want to be overthrown by revolutions. They want to remain in power. These are the submissive players, but they also have their needs. So they will make the deals to meet their objectives, especially regime survival and thriving, and financial and material stability. The new player is China. China wants, China needs the oil from not only Iran, the gas from Qatar, the oil and gas even from Saudi Arabia and other Gulf countries, because it uses 12 billion barrels of oil in a single day. So it needs a stable, secure supply routes. The Strait of Hormuz crisis complicates matters even for them. Even though Iran has given guarantees that it will be allowed to go free. And also the other thing is countries like India supply medicines and those things, and even foodstuffs, even meat, vegetables, and whatnot. It is a short distance, India, Pakistan. It comes into UAE and whatnot because these countries are arid countries, desert countries. So their food supply comes from outside in a just-in-time basis. So those routes also have to be open and relatively risk-free. China as as the de novo challenger provider of the security. It has geopolitical influence over Iran, especially, and it is the one which requested Iran to enter into the negotiating table for the ceasefire, the current ceasefire and the current talks which are going on. With the US had been trying to through other means, and it was not going anywhere until when the Chinese spoke to the Iranians. Of course, the Iranians also are dependent significantly on the Chinese trade of oil. And the other inputs coming from China. China to buy its oil, and it gives them manufactured goods and things which it cannot make on its own, like semiconductors and whatnot, because China has rare earth minerals. So China wants a stable and increase its reach in the Belts and Roads Initiative and the revival of the old Silk Road, which passed through these Gulf economies, including Oman, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait. It wants to extend its influence, and it wants to influence the trade of oil in yuan and the trade of oil, including the futures in the Shanghai Energy Futures Exchange. Right now, it's still a very small amount. Actually, it is close to 12% of the world's energy futures are traded in Shanghai Energy Exchange, which is a good number because of the Russia is one of the biggest oil producers, plus Iran, and one of the Gulf countries which has broken ranks and is selling its futures in through the Chinese system, because China underpins not only itself but also in the wider Asia Pacific region, and it builds factories, roads, railways, bridges, plants, ports for countries like Sri Lanka, Kenya, Ethiopia, Tanzania, in Africa and the global south. Is one of the biggest, the most important player in the BRICS network, challenger to the G7 or G8. BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It is increasing its geopolitical influence. It is also building military and bases across the world, not at the same level and space as America, but at a slower space. But its Belts and Roads initiative across Africa and Asia is huge because it does not ask for a regime change, it does not try for political reforms, it does not ask you to become American yes men. So it is one big player in this conflict which has not fired a shot, but it has great power and it is increasing its reach and power in the region. It is also, ironically, Israel's biggest trading partner also. So it has a lot of soft power over the whole region, and it requires peace, safe routes for trade and its investments to be protected, what it builds for countries, the infrastructure it is building for UAE, for Iran, and Qatar, and maybe even increase to Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain also in the future. So it is increasing its reach. So that is the current situation in the Middle East crisis, Middle East situation using game theory. Outcomes can be, we will discuss them on Saturday, God willing. Thank you.